essentially on TikTok, I've been doing true crime stories for years now, and my wife and I co-host Murder in America. It's
Oh, nice.
a true crime podcast, and
Nice.
so in doing all of those stories, I kind of realized that to me, the most evil crime that I can imagine was hurting a child. I mean,
Yeah, for
that's just
sure.
usable for anybody in any instance. And so when I started going down these rabbit holes a few years ago, I dug up these stories that they have gotten, a kind of minimal level of exposure in the mainstream media, but they're always labeled as, fake or fraudulent. There's no evidence, blah, blah, blah. And when I dove into the story of Frank Sheldon and North Fox Island and started working with investigative journalists and people that are in that space, that was kind of my like big explosion point where in my mind I discovered for myself that like, wow, not only is all of this very real, but so many of these fuckers got away with this shit. It's absolutely insane. So I've kind of dedicated now my YouTube channel. It's been a weird mix now of like pedophile ring investigations and paranormal, but I started a second channel and a podcast where I exclusively rant about these rings with all the evidence. I always post like a show notes with all the links to like newspaper articles and declassified documents where people can find this information. And it's fucking crazy, man. It's like a black hole. Once you start kind of circling the outside of these things, they fucking suck you in and you cannot stop thinking about them.
And it's interesting to me. Now, is your new channel, is it on YouTube? And if it is on YouTube, what kind of pushback are you getting? What is the name of this YouTube channel?
It's called The Conspiracy Files. So on that channel, literally, it's just me sitting here in front of this backdrop, and it's been an uphill battle going against the YouTube censors, just trying to get these videos up. I mean, I'm not even talking about monetized, but just like to stay on the platform. It's fucking insane.
And is it affecting your other show?
I haven't seen anything necessarily that has cross-bled between the two. If anything, it's actually kind of made my other content do even better because I'm sending people back and forth. But yeah, dude, just every single one of these videos, they have to be highly censored. Obviously, that's something that I get in the comments all the time is, why do you choose to censor this and blah, blah, blah. It pisses me off that you censor. But that's YouTube. That's specifically because YouTube, they won't just demonetize a video. They'll fucking remove the whole thing.
Yeah.
And
How are you choosing to do that? Are you just bleeping certain or removing the audio for certain words, or are you not? Are you self-censoring in the actual production?
It's a mix of both. And that's what's really weird, man, is like I've even self-censored and I've put in code words that, predator is whatever. I've even had to stop using the word predator because they kept censoring or demonetizing me for that.
That's crazy.
But I don't know what the actual censors are looking for on YouTube. That's the very, very infuriating part because they don't tell you.
It's impossible to know. Yeah.
Yeah, they just say, especially when it comes to pedophile ring videos, that's like I've done probably 20 plus videos just focusing on one specific either element or ring in general. Every single one of those gets struck for controversial issues, and then they don't tell you.
It's so crazy to me. It is so crazy to me that you trying to out people or hurt children are censored. And again, Johnny and I have said this 1,000 times because we put our other shows on my channel. We're old school shadow banned. Like, if you were talking about Pizzagate way back in the day, you are shadow banned, and they are not allowing you to unshadow ban no matter what. And, it's bled into Instagram. If I hear another person like, Zuckin' dude, he's come to our side. Fuck Zuck. That's the new shirt. That's the new shirt.
that's a good
the
shirt.
Fuck Zuck
Dude,
shirt.
that's a great idea.
I think
Okay.
I think yep.
I don't even know if I want to make that a special
No, you got to just put that out.
Yeah,
dude.
I'm gonna
You
make the
gotta put
Fuck
that out.
Zuck shirt.
Put it in the Facebook typeface, you know, the font.
Yeah,
no,
and
Facebook.
then the F word will
Oh,
be.
the F is the F of Facebook. You know, the
Yeah, the
logo.
F is F,
Oh,
but
yeah.
I'll cover up the U with him. He'll be the cover up of the U, and then you have F, him. Okay, anyways,
great.
we're like,
Yeah, sorry.
we're
So
making
Don't
shirts
steal the
about-
idea. Don't steal the idea.
No, yeah, don't steal the idea. But here's the thing.
Well, you
Real
want to
quick.
hear something crazy about Facebook that happened to me? Do I have time to tell you this story?
Yeah.
So
Unless it's a
This is-
2-hour story.
Yeah, we have-
no, I'll cap it at like an hour 45. I think we'll be So about 6 months ago in August, late August last year, I went to Bohemian Grove and I did a whole video interviewing locals with a hidden camera and sneaking around the perimeter of the property. We didn't actually get to go in because we ended up visiting like I think 2 or 3 days after the end of this year's Grove, whatever the ceremony, the camp out. And so I made this whole video. It was a whole documentary on my YouTube channel. And I posted the trailer on my Instagram and my Facebook. And the day after, I got my personal Facebook, my personal Instagram, and my business Instagram all taken, like a fucking nuke dropped on me from above. And they said it was for dishonest behavior, I believe. So it's been a huge process trying to get back from that just to get access to these accounts that I had that had like 100,000 followers. But in addition, so I have a, considerable TikTok presence, and on TikTok, I posted the same trailer, and immediately TikTok community guidelines me and took the video down and gave me a warning for whatever, once again, misinformation, even though everything I was talking about in the video, I show receipts for, like in the video. And this led me to discover, I don't know if you guys have seen this yet, but have you ever tried to type in Bohemian Grove on TikTok?
No.
No, I'm not on TikTok.
Do
I'm
it.
afraid.
Dude, do you guys have TikTok with you in the
You
studio?
have TikTok.
I can pull it up here. I might
Xavier's
be able
the
to
young person on the show. Well, Johnny's young too.
We have, I have an account for Broken Simpson. Let me see. I'm typing in Bohemian Grove right now.
Yeah, type in Bohemian Grove and see what comes up.
Okay, Bohemian Grove. Let's. Well, the first thing it says is Bohemian Grove Town. I don't know what that is.
Bohemian Grove.
No results found is actually what I get.
there you go.
Yeah, no results at all. On
The
my,
entire search term is completely blocked.
yeah, on my app it says no results found.
That's unbelievable.
No, actually, you had something else there.
Yeah, no, I'll pull it. I thought you were gonna.
He's
pull it
on
up.
the web. I'm on my phone. So
He's on the app version. Yeah, that's
But
crazy, dude.
did you get results
Yeah.
on the web?
Let's see it.
On the web, actually.
No, we're gonna look it up
okay.
right now.
Well, let's just play a game. Can he spell it?
He
I did
copy-pasted.
copy and
No,
paste it.
no.
Johnny knows I copy and paste. I ain't gonna
hey,
write.
buddy, I couldn't spell it either.
But no results found. He's right.
Damn, dude, that's
Bohemian Grove.
impossible.
Isn't that fucking crazy?
That's insane.
That is crazy. Have you noticed any other terms that have been just blacked out like that?
No.
I've never heard of anything.
Get
being
off
blacked out
TikTok,
like that.
please. I can
Yes,
feel my
please,
brain draining.
Yeah, and that is so bizarre to me because Bohemian Grove, regardless of the conspiracy and all the stories surrounding it, that's a real place, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course. Here's what it says. It says this phrase may be associated with behavior or content that violates our guidelines. Promoting a safe and positive experience is the Chinese government. I'm sorry, TikTok's top priority. For more information, we invite you to review our community guidelines.
You know what's interesting is like they say that Burning Man is a new Bohemian Grove. That so like basically now Bohemian Grove is like some kind of lemon party basically where
it's all old
it's
people
just
now.
a bunch of old guys doing gay shit, right? Just like and it's an interesting thing, dude, and it really makes me sad. And I'm happy that people with giant accounts like yours are willing to take chances. Start off with paranormal. What made you move into discovering the horrible things that scumbags do to children? How did you make that transition?
Oh, so on TikTok, I do true crime stories, and a few years ago, I was looking for a story to research and talk about on TikTok, and I came across Frank Sheldon. who, if you aren't privy to the story, he was basically the Epstein of the 1970s. He had a private island where they were running a massive boys for sale racket. You know, rich men could pay to fly onto the private island to abuse boys there. They were filming these rapes and they were producing child pornography, both photo and video, reel to reel. And yeah, Frank Sheldon, at the end of that whole thing, he got tipped off by somebody and he flew out of the country on his private plane and he was never brought to justice. He was never arrested. To this day, most people don't know his name. His crimes have never been properly chronicled. So I made a TikTok about that series and it exploded with tons of people saying, hey, you have to look into this and this and this. And eventually someone tagged me in a TikTok about the Franklin cover up, the book by John DeCamp. And I I've been working. I have a very big project that is going to be released this year that has to do with a lot of that stuff. So I can't really talk too much about Franklin at this moment. But I ended up for the last over a year working with Nick Bryant, who's the author of the Franklin Scandal, which is like the Bible of the Franklin cover up. And yeah, after reading that stuff, I was like, kind of, I'm sure like how you guys experienced that moment of like, wow, that is fucking crazy that these people not only, abused these children, but in some cases they murdered them and completely got away with it. They washed their hands of the whole thing and moved on. And so last year, I actually got the chance to go to North Fox Island. I interviewed the author of The Kill Jar, which is a book about the Oakland County child murders. He's a very good friend of mine, J. Reuben Appleman. And we did a documentary about North Fox Island. And when I posted that video, I already knew that that was the direction I was moving in my career because of this other project that I'm working on. But yeah, once you do one of these videos and one of these investigations, and I got thousands of comments from people that had been, abused as a child, and they were saying like, we need more people to talk about this and sharing their stories. It kind of encouraged me to keep using my platform to raise awareness about this shit because it's fucking insane, man. And so yeah, now I'm here. I've done tons of on the ground investigations. One of the craziest ones that we did was a deep look at Midnight Productions. Have you ever heard of that?
Nope.
I have heard of Midnight Productions. What is that from?
It's according to locals in Phoenix, Arizona.
Yes.
Midnight Productions is like a snuff film production ring. So yeah, we went to Phoenix last April to do this documentary. We interviewed the Arizona Anti-Trafficking Network about Midnight Productions, and then we spent a couple days just going around town speaking with people that were on the streets, unhoused individuals, and asking them like, what do you know about Midnight Productions? And the shit that they told us was absolutely fucking horrifying. And I am 100% in the camp where I believe that Midnight Productions is real. And I've had tons of people after I put the video out that have come to me and sent me emails saying, you should remove this video. Like, I'll fucking kill you. I had someone DM me and they said that like, we're watching your wife and your pet and like, you don't want to fuck with their lives and blah, 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 blah. But we ended up actually using, it's interesting, a mix of paranormal investigating and interviewing people and talking to locals to complete that video. And we went to this hotel room at a place that I had heard someone describe was a Midnight Productions like hotspot. So essentially what Midnight Productions is it's a syndicate. It involves the police, according to most of the people that
Tends to always do that.
Of course, I mean, you can't run one of these rings without the help from some form of authority, whether it's, local authorities or, in some cases, all the way up to executive branch. There are plenty of these rings that have been run by people in the executive.
Yeah, cops can totally be compromised. I believe that's why you saw the guy from the Vegas shooting, the sheriff. Where'd he get moved out to? Maui. And then that fire happens and he's right there. And they're like, we just need this guy there because we know he knows that we know what he did and we got it on film or we got it. Allegedly, let's just say that. I don't have it. I'm just going based off of if studying this stuff long enough. Why would that guy be in two places right at the perfect moment?
Well, if you look at the Franklin scandal and the Franklin cover-up, most, if not all, of the people that were involved in that whole thing, in the actual cover-up itself, they advanced in their careers afterwards. So they were promoted or they were moved up. They received, higher ranking positions with higher salaries and more power. So there's definitely in a lot of these cases, I mean, especially another case that I've done a ton of research into, and I actually went and visited a lot of the locations from this whole story is Mark Dutroux. Are you familiar with that story?
No, I'm not.
Dude, oh my fucking God. Mark Dutroux is essentially like the Epstein of Belgium. He was.
Oh, yeah, that's a giant scandal, right? And the whole country went nuts and demanded. Yeah, man, that is a go with that story so everyone can hear. That's a crazy story.
Well, I worked with, there's a part of the Dutroux story. Basically, Dutroux is viewed by the mass media in Europe to be like a serial killer. Like he's never formally been connected to this nationwide, continent-wide pedophile ring, which he definitely was. He was like the fall guy for this entire thing. But as a part of the Dutroux story, there was an element of this whole thing where one of his accomplices, his name was Bernard Weinstein, in his home, in Bernard's home, they found this letter to him written by this person who called themselves Anubis. I can't remember exactly what it said, but it was talking about these presents that Bernard was supposed to bring them and talking about like an age, I believe. It was something really, really bizarre, essentially alluding to Bernard providing these people with children. Well, there's this cult of somewhat satanic worshipers in that area named Abraxas that was operating at the time.
Abraxas, I've heard of that as well.
Yeah, they also have skirted a lot of the whole controversy of Dutroux. There's a lot of really weird things. They actually raided the Abraxas compound in Charleroi, Belgium. I was there. I actually visited the compound a couple months ago, and it's very bizarre because the day before the raid, there were people that saw members of the Abraxas cult loading up vehicles, bringing stuff out of the institute, the Abraxas compound. Nobody knows what they were bringing out of the building. Nobody knows what they were doing. There were also multiple members of Abraxas or people that were connected to Abraxas that ended up being pedophiles. And the reason I'm saying all this is because I worked with this guy. His name's Nico Clo. His nickname is the Vampire of Paris. So Nico is a guy who murdered somebody in the 1990s, and he's a self-confessed cannibal. So he
and you hang out with this guy?
Yeah. Well, I interviewed him at his house in France. Now, Nico is a black magician. I don't know if that's what he would want to be referred to as, but he works in the kind of satanic realm of magic. And Nico used to like work at a morgue, and he would cut off pieces of bodies, bring them home, cook them and eat them. He would steal blood from the blood bank, or not the blood bank, but I can't remember how he was getting the blood, but he essentially steal it, mix it with protein powder and drink it. And he was doing all of this as a part of like some satanic ritual, some worship, trying to gain power from it. So when I was there in France with Nico, he actually took me to a local castle, and we walked around the castle grounds, and he brought us to this fountain where Nico believes that there are children being murdered and their blood being harvested. Now, that's a pretty bold claim to make, completely without evidence. Well, we walked around the castle grounds, and Nico was showing us all of this stuff that had to do with the story, like the fact that there was a serial killer that was arrested right nearby. All this symbolism. He even showed us, like, if you zoom out from the castle from above, the tree line, like right next to, adjacent to the castle, it's actually on the castle property. It forms a pentagram. Like it's on Google Maps and Apple Maps. It's pretty fucking crazy. So long story short, Nico is well versed in all of this stuff in the satanic underground. He's like a big part in it. And he's determined to help me end this pedophile problem as well. So he made that documentary with me and he helped me translate this document or this I don't know if it's officially like a document or it's a grouping of documents, but they were basically the unsealed investigation reports of the Abrasics cult dealing with Detrue. And I translated the whole thing, and it's definitely been published somewhere before, but I'd never seen somebody actually publish and walk people through the entire thing. And it's fucking crazy, man. It's like this with every single one of these cases. In these investigative reports, they're actually naming these individuals that are involved in this cult. They are listing out like, oh, we found child porn at this person's place, or, this guy was rumored to be a pedophile, and this girl testified that she was molested by this 49-year-old man, and blah, blah, blah. And they have these write-ups about so many members of this cult. And yet when you look at the official records of the entire thing, none of them were ever actually arrested. None of them were actually prosecuted for any of those crimes, even though the police had all this information about them committing crimes against children. Nothing ever came of it. And it's interesting because people say Abrasics was like this smoke screen to cover for the wider crimes of Detrue and that whole network. But in my mind, like, you're looking at the paperwork right here and you're reading the line items of like what these people fucking did and were accused of doing. And it's like, I don't even know if it's a smokescreen. I think these people were all just rotten to the fucking core. And the Detrue thing is like one of the most monumental, most insanely fucked things that I've ever like really researched. And it's just, that's the type of shit that you read about and it really makes your head hurt and it makes you sick to your stomach. So I can't even remember what the fuck we were talking about.
Yeah,
but
we were talking about exactly what you're talking about. For me, man, pedophilia, now that culturally homosexuality is accepted, again, I live your life. As long as you don't hurt people, in particular children, you'll never hear from me. And you keep it to yourself. We need to get back to social contracts where everyone at the food court or the town hall chills, okay? We don't need to, we don't give a shit about what makes you special. Just let me have my Sabrero's pizza and leave me the fuck alone, okay? But I do believe at at the highest points of power, the initiation in is pedophilia, is hurting children. Sadly, a lot of people can commit murder, but it takes a certain type. Even in prison, a pedophile is the worst of the worst. In a prison full of, some may say, the worst of the worst, right? A lot of them are hurt children, foster care, didn't get the love, it wasn't taught. I always say that raising children, I have kids, is you're raising wild animals and you're teaching them, you're basically domesticating them to be able to act in society. And a lot of those people didn't get that. And, but.
So you think that's the way to initiate to the elite?
The pedophilia? Oh, yeah.
You also don't think there's just some people that literally like want to become part of the elite for that? Like, I'm sure there's some people like, hey, you want to be part of the elite? Like, you get caught up in a blackmail ring. But I'm also saying there's some people in there that go in there thinking like, hey, if I'm part of the elite,
You're
I
thinking
get part
they
of it.
just want to be pedophiles, but they became elite almost as like a secondary thing? Is that what you're saying?
I mean, as much as you want to believe it, yeah. With knowing that you can get away with that when you get that big.
Like, I was just here for the kids, but now I'm running a company.
I don't even maybe. I mean, I don't know how we debate on that. I mean, like, why people join, why don't join. But what happens is, to get to this level of power, you must be willing to hurt children, because that is the occult, satanic ritual that gets you into that.
Is it an ongoing thing or just as kind of an entry fee?
I mean, it's an entry fee that they probably end up participating in because you want to keep going to these parties.
See, but that's what I mean. You kind of have to be into it to keep it on going. I get why you did it the first time.
I don't know if you have to be into it. I think you understand that is part of the ritual to be in the elite of the highest levels. It's
like a secret handshake, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, like, you can't. It used to be if a guy. Back in the day, if a man was cheating on his wife, you could blackmail them on that, and that was the equivalent.
Oh,
Now-
they tried to do
Not
that with
anymore,
Martin Luther King Jr. Remember when they were like, "Oh, he's cheating on his wife."
He
And we're
was
like,
cheating on his wife,
He
by
was,
the way.
It
definitely,
was,
yeah.
but they were like, and he's doing gay shit. And everyone's, these aren't the files we were looking for. But the point is, like, I think, and that's why you see them get away with it.
Well, it's interesting. I feel like there are multiple types. I mean, obviously there are of these rings. Like there are rings that exist purely because all of the people are completely fucked in the head and they just get off on abusing children.
Yeah, they're piece of shits.
There are also these rings that exist almost purely to gather blackmail on individuals. There are also rings, like you just said, Sam, about that deal with like initiation. Like, for example, when I was in Belgium, are you guys familiar with the Chateau d'Ameroy?
No.
Dude, this is a fucking rabbit hole to go down. So the Chateau d'Ameroy is a chateau castle structure in the Belgian countryside, and it's very, very well guarded. It's documented that this place is like damn near impossible to get into. They've got like tripwires surrounding the place, super high gates and fences. Lots of horrible stories that have emerged about the chateau. But what a lot of people believe that the Chateau d'Ameroy is like a ritual ground or a meeting ground for elite members of society.
Is this
where
the
they do-
Mothers of Darkness castle?
Yes, Mothers of Darkness Castle.
Oh, yeah, that thing is so creepy, dude. It is
Dude, it's
so
insane.
creepy.
I fucking stood outside of it, and we were there for about 2.5 hours doing some paranormal work. And the weirdest thing from that whole video and experience was, well, there were two weird things. One was this weird trumpety noise that we kept hearing. It's on video. It was like this weird harmonic ringing that kept echoing through the air right outside of the castle. We were right on the border of the property. And we can't explain that. Nobody online that has watched the video has been able to explain what those noises are. And then, in addition, I walked right up to the gate, and there was this weird, I don't know if it was artwork or what the fuck it was, but it was like this collage of newspapers with the string on it. And like what looked like wax or some other material dripped all over it. It's on video. I still have no idea what it was. It looked almost like a sign, but I've found rituals before, like the remnants of rituals. I found one in Los Angeles in the Devil's Gate Dam. I found a couple in England in these old abandoned buildings. Like, and I'm not talking, teenagers breaking into a place and spray painting a pentagram. I'm talking about like very complex setups that I've walked into where it's like all the sigils are scrawled on the walls, and you've got like candles and blood drippings, and like it's clear that these people were doing these things with intent. And yeah, the chateau is a place like what you were just talking about. It's where these people allegedly go to either take part in these rituals so that they can advance in their career, or they just go for a sick time. And a lot of the allegations against the Chateau d'Ameroy actually stem from, in part, Marc Dutroux and that whole thing. One of the people who testified that they were abused by Dutroux and the Dutroux network, I believe it was Regina Louf. They described the Chateau d'Ameroy, and there were other leaked documents that came out in the X dossiers that were talking about these people going to the Chateau d'Ameroy to do these rituals and like child hunting parties. And it's like, it's so fucking out there. When you first hear about this shit, you're like, there's no way that they are actually hunting children in the woods at these locations. But when you actually go into it, kind of like with the paranormal, with an open mind, and you start attracting the evidence and going down the proper rabbit holes and looking into the right articles, it's like, well, it sounds crazy, but this victim talks about being raped and abused and hunted down by these pedophiles at this chateau. And then there's this other document. It's like all these different reports painting a wider picture of, especially in the case of Dutroux, like a fucking huge continent-wide network that was just devoted to systematically abusing and at the end of the day also murdering children. And I think that's where these rings take a step further into depravity because they're not always just pedophile rings. Like in the case of Frank Sheldon and North Fox Island, that whole ring, he was financing snuff films. Like Frank Sheldon was a snuff film guy. So it's an untold amount of children that he actually not only facilitated the rapes of, but he also, paid people to murder these kids on camera to produce these products. Kind of like Candyman here in Houston. I'm doing this from Houston, Texas, and that's another huge part of these stories.
So, wait, a quick question. You said the Snuff Midnight Productions is from Arizona. Is there a reason why it's from Arizona? It's just random.
I don't know, man. That's something that I've asked myself, but it's such a big thing. If you just type in Midnight Productions in
It all
Arizona,
comes up. Yeah, I typed it in. It all comes up. Arizona. There's a lot to go down that rabbit hole. That's why I'm asking. Any reason? I've never heard Arizona be a spot for like productions of anything.
well, Arizona is like a hub of human trafficking. It's one
Yeah.
of the top states.
if not the top state. And, when the governor is working hand in hand with the cartels, I mean, that's been proven. She's done shady ass business deals with these cartels. And, I do believe that these lost immigrant children are the new orphan trains. Kids would just be trafficked across the country and never seen again. And, I don't want to bring this into another debate, but, there's a lot of discussion about, who should be able to adopt children, who shouldn't be able to adopt children. I had a good friend of mine who went through the foster care system and he had no skills in life. Nobody taught him any skills in life. And the reason I bring this up is because, like, they've talked about, like, 90% of the children who go missing in the country are from foster care. And, Jared from Subway, that piece of shit, was talking about he was like, oh, she doesn't have parents. I mean, just think about that statement, man.
Guy.
And this guy's gonna walk out. Fuck that dude, that fat fuck.
That's why, as a parent, well, the most important thing is when predators is, does he have a parent? Does he have a dad? If they know he has a dad, not fucking with him anymore because there's someone there that's gonna look at why is this man talking to my kid?
Yeah, 100%.
And the mom's like, oh, there's a male figure talking to my son.
Yeah,
he's out there for different reasons.
Yeah,
that's why he's talking
100%. So, that's a big reason why these, and we can get into like what USA Aid and all the stuff it's been funding. I mean, it's coming out right now. Like I said before, the Fed funds everything you hate in the world. Everything you hate comes from the Fed. The funding of it, the trafficking, the cartels, the drugs, all that stuff. I mean, how many times do we find people accused of elite pedophilia are getting funding from USAID? I mean, it happens all Bill Gates and trying to. I mean, you have grown ass reporters going, "Hey, like, what's up with you and Jeffrey Epstein? Well, I shouldn't have dinner with. Go get the fuck out of here, dude. I mean, like, how many people like when I was approached by fucking friends getting in my face about like me calling out Pizzagate, right? They were like, no, dude, that's so stupid. Nobody would ever do that. There's none of that coming out. I had a friend of mine. Johnny was there. I grew up in D.C. That doesn't happen. What are you, fucking nuts? I mean, dude, Hillary Clinton in 1 year had 5 different people get busted for child sex trafficking. Not just arrested, in court, accused of child sex trafficking.
It's just a coincidence, Sam, of course. It's, when you deal with that many people, you're going to be around a lot of pedophiles. That's what they say.
That was Brian Callen's whole thing. You don't know everybody. Bro, I have cut people out of my life that dark shit is said.
Yeah.
It's
ridiculous.
Like Jeff Ross. Like, I don't talk to that dude. Everyone else fucks with that guy. And Jeff Ross treated me well. He treated me well. He was one of the nice guys to me. But I can't fuck with that shit. If I know you're up to that, man, I am fucking out. And I'm not talking about like, that's so funny because they tried to make the Me Too movement. And, to be honest with you, they tried to paint Chris D'Elia as that. I'm like, they're trying to get you to think that's what this is about. It is not. What we are talking about is children kidnapped, put in child pornography, and then snuffed out. That's what we're calling out right here. We're not talking about a dude Snapchatting with 17-year-olds in a state where 17 is legal and they can go home to their moms and dads. And I'm not saying that's right. As a guy who has a daughter, no. I'm not saying that's right. And Chris paid a giant fucking cost for that. Okay? Giant penalty for that. That's not what we're talking about. What we are talking about is children kidnapped against their will. You know, we got comedians out there who hate the right. These conservative comedians, while they're doing pedophile jokes, right? And they're like punching up and punching down. There's no bigger punching down than kids in kiddie porn. They have no say in anything. It's ridiculous. And it's like the fact that people are allowed to still work when they've been accused of that is absolutely insanity to me.
Because they make money for the system. It's that simple.
So if you want to talk about something like that, that's gonna fucking blow your mind. Have you heard of Operation Flicker?
Oh, that doesn't even sound good.
So this is fucking insane, man. So Operation Flicker was a operation that was started by ICE back in, I want to say 2006. It was back in the mid 2000s. And so essentially what it was I believe it started with them finding one government employee that had downloaded child porn, and the investigation kind of like spiderwebbed out, and they ended up finding all these different people. So in total, Operation Flicker turned up over 5,000. I think it was over 5,200 government, or specifically Department of Defense employees that had emails that had downloaded child pornography. And these were like government emails, like .mil emails with their full names. They had used their personal credit cards or whatever to download this child porn, or they had accessed websites where you could get this child porn from. So obviously you don't go to a child porn website if you're not looking for child porn. So out of those 5,000 plus people that were on this list, they only ended up investigating really about 200, I believe, and 60 of them. And out of those 260 people, that was just the people that they actually kind of looked at a little more. Then they really narrowed the group down. And out of that 5,000 plus group of individuals that they had the information on, that they knew that they had been downloading child pornography, I believe that there was only, don't quote me on this, but it's a very small number. It's either like, it's somewhere from 6 to 10 actual convictions. And most of those people got like, you know, a year in prison. Some people got no prison at all. There's tons of unredacted files that show that like they caught Department of Defense employees. This one guy, they actually caught him messaging who we believe to be like a 12-year-old girl online, which was actually a chief of a police department posing online. And he also had downloaded child pornography, and they didn't give him any action at all. Like he wasn't slapped with any fine. He wasn't given any jail time. He wasn't even put on probation. They just turned the guy loose. And in most of these cases, these people that had been identified as having downloaded child pornography using a government email, they were never even investigated, and they were never even fucking talked to about this whole thing. They were allowed to continue working in the government. And so this whole thing reached a nexus. I believe it was 2011, but Anderson Cooper was talking to Senator Chuck Grassley on Cooper's show at the time, and they aired this whole report about Operation Flicker and the government child porn downloaders and everything like that. And after that report, I can't remember who it was, but they essentially came out and said, like, yeah, we're going to reopen the Operation Flicker files, and we're actually going to look at these people, and this is egregious. And then nothing ever happened. So that is a case of like absolute what the fuck when it comes to the government letting these pedophiles go. Yeah. They had the actual names and a list of 5,000 pedophiles that were actively trading and downloading this child pornography using government emails on taxpayers' time. So a lot of them were doing this while they were supposed to be at work, and none of them faced repercussions. I shouldn't say none. It was about 6 out of 5,000, which is like fucking mental to me.
Yeah, Anderson Cooper talked about this. This was a big story on, I think Anderson Cooper even brought this up. And just slowly goes away, and it's so funny. And I don't want to be crude, so I don't hope you don't take my words wrong, but you got this piece of shit from what's his name that runs he was with Sam Altman that they're gonna build a AI. What was the guy?
Larry Ellison?
Larry Ellison, who looks like he's a gay magician into scat. He has scat energy, like he's like, hey man, you know, we're going to make sure you're on your best behavior. You're like the scumbag billionaires
So
who are all
creepy.
connected to Jeffrey Epstein are going to make sure that we're on our best behavior.
You're talking about AI surveillance, yeah.
And, you know, we were just talking about this, like, on another show. It's like, I think the reason they're getting rid of the CIA, or at least the appearance of it, is they don't need them anymore. They don't need the FBI anymore because of this AI surveillance. They know everybody who's doing everything.
Yeah, and dude, you remember when we were first hearing that the government was ingesting all our data? And one of the reasons people were kind of okay with it at the time is like, because how are they? It's, you know, they're looking for grains of sand in this stream. You know, it's impossible. But with AI now, dude, to just sort through it instantly,
Yeah.
you know, whatever you want in real time. I mean, it's a nightmare for privacy.
Well,
Privacy's
and
over.
again, it gets into, this is where it gets even darker, is like now they can isolate and identify the person who would be perfect position in power because they do have a kiddie porn addiction. So it's like, you know, they can follow them. Are they super political? Oh, hey man, if they're maybe political, can we send in an operative to nudge them into office? Hey man, you're really on point. You ever thought about running for office? I don't know, should I? Yeah, I think you'd be great. Bang, 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 and then you get them to the party. Now you got to control at every level of this thing.
Is that why Pornhub has teen and all that shit to figure out who clicks on it? And the most people who click on it,
100%,
oh, so-and-so
dude.
clicks on only teen shit. Let's go after that motherfucker.
And then you know that Pornhub allows stuff on there.
Trying to see who finds it, as in like trying to see. Let's see who finds it. It's gonna take you a minute to find it, but if you want it, it's on here, type of shit.
Yep. And they start to slowly, and that's how they identify you. That's why porn is for free, so they can find out who the freaks
Yeah, I've
are.
always wondered why they don't charge, because we would all pay for it. If Pornhub was to had a $5 thing, we're like, okay.
No, I think most people wouldn't do it. Dana's always like, hey, man, why don't you charge for this? Like I did a live stream with 3,000 people were watching, which for me is a lot, you know, and she's like, you charge $10. I go, you put $10 on that, nobody's showing up. But if you do it for free, everybody shows up, you know, so I think it's interesting. I mean, dude, it upsets me the level of pedophilia, dude. It upsets me, dude, that everybody...
Well, I mean, what's really insane, and like these topics aren't even like conspiracy related, because once you start going like conspiracy and pedophiles, then you get to like the Frank Sheldons and the Jeffrey Epsteins and the Mark Detrues, like the pedophile rings that you know exist, but the governments have tried to make look like they don't exist. But there are also like so many of these websites, not even just on the dark web, but some just on the regular web, that it's fucking insane when you go and look into these things and the stories of what happened. It's like, let's just make up an example. This is like what happens. Like the FBI or somebody will come across a website and we'll name it something like, I know that there was a famous case about a website called the Playpen. And on that website, they'll find that, you know, there's 200,000 child pornography images. And when they look into the actual metrics of the website and the data behind it, they'll discover that there's like 240,000 registered pedophiles who are on that website.
Oh my
And
God.
for some reason, time and time again, you just have to look into these stories. There's a really famous one. I think it's called Welcome to Video in Korea, where the guy got like 2 months in prison for running a website like that. But they just cut these people loose. It's like they have the names and information of like 200,000 plus pedophiles. But when they bust these things, they usually only make like 100 to 200 arrests. So that is fucking frightening to me.
Yeah, it's
Like,
super frightening.
where's the effort, man? Where's the effort from the government? And that's the thing. Like so many politicians talk about all these different issues, and they're always bringing up this and bringing up that, but you never see politicians talking about like pedophile rings and like protecting, children from these online predators. Like it's very rare to see a politician actually sit down and say like, we need to create a new task force to actually eliminate this problem, because then you have like I forget the term, not sexploitation, but it's where they're blackmailing like children into, in some cases like killing themselves. Like there's
No,
an
no,
online group
I
that
know
does
what
that.
you mean.
It's
Like
insane.
they'll ask them for something and they'll just up it. Like,
Yeah, oh,
can I
dude.
get a picture of you showing me the boob? And then be like, well, if you don't send me a picture of vagina, I'll send this to your parents. So it just keeps upping till the kid literally is in a position where like, I'm just gonna kill myself.
And there's other people that take that shit to the next fucking level. Like once they've got a 14-year-old, once that 14-year-old has sent them like a picture of them nude, this grown adult will tell the kid like, you need to murder your cat on camera and send me a video of it. I read about a case. There's a guy named Matthew Falder in England, and he actually was able to convince someone to rape a child a grown adult to rape a child. I can't remember if he videotaped it or photographed it or what, but he like wanted proof of it. There are also these subgroups of these groups where the thing that they want children to do is kill themselves on camera. Like that's a whole thing. I just saw a report on the BBC talking about this group that was doing it like 3 weeks ago that popped up on my feed, and I went down this whole rabbit hole of like looking into all these arrests and shit,
Man,
and it's
how
like
do you do
fucking
it?
crazy.
How
So
do you
dark.
do it? I don't know.
Like, how do you mentally do that to a human being?
Yeah, I'm with
like,
you,
it is
dude.
the absolute sickest fucking shit that I can even. It just
Well-
makes me nauseous.
Well, even it's not even on that level, but a lot of those YouTube pedophile hunters, what they do is crazy. They'll talk to these guys for months about dirty shit, and the guys repeating them, and they'll have conversations. I'm like, dude, you sit there and you text these guys for days to try to catch them. I know they're trying to do a good deed, but I'm like, you still have to go there and text this motherfucker. You know how he looks. He's not good looking. You're like, what the fuck are you sending me this
Wait,
shit
you're
for?
saying it would be easier to do that job if they were hot? Is that?
No, I'm just saying in general. Like, I'm general. You get a picture of this creepy guy, and you're like, what the fuck? You have no chance. Like, it's delusional.
I'm okay
and you
with that. I gotta be honest. I'm totally. Cool
I'm
with
gonna
them
be, and I'm not saying this is excuse, but so many of those people are on the spectrum, and I'm not saying that that they should be absolved of their sins, but there's something about spectrum people.
I do agree. I think that we don't give those people, especially the ones who haven't been
haven't
acted on it.
Yes.
Yet, like they need treatment. Like,
Well, I don't
they need
know
to
if
have
you-
their
I mean,
brains
like,
sorted out.
It's a hard thing. I mean, like pedophiles need to be put in wood chippers, but I'm also noticing that these guys don't have social. The ability to socially make contact and interact and all
But
that.
there are plenty of them who get busted with and don't get me wrong, I think that's a violent act because the stuff in the footage is obviously done to someone, and they're supporting that by watching it. But there's got to be some kind of level of treatment where they feel comfortable seeking treatment. You know what I mean? Like it's a tough question.
It's
for
a tough
society.
question. People are going to hear this and they're going to be like,
I know,
"Oh, you guys
yeah.
are no, dude. I
No,
think they're
dude. No,
scumbag."
yeah, they should-
But I've just noticed that some of these guys just have no social fucking ability to socialize.
Because it's not normal. Nobody is born. I don't. It's got to be some brain chemistry quirk, right? It's like because.
Well, it also has to do with like when you see these pedophiles, they tend to be have beta energy,
Big
like they
time.
can't
Oh,
talk
yeah.
to grown women.
Dude, yeah, big time.
They don't they can't alpha that shit.
Yeah.
So they go and they hurt children because they're pieces of shit.
It's awful.
You know, I'm just saying I'm noticing the patterns here.
And you know what I've noticed? Not that I can't guarantee, but I have a feeling some of them know that this is a sting and they might get caught, and they kind of want to get caught. Like they kind of want to end that whole. Like I've seen them. Like yeah, I kind of knew it was. It felt too good to be true, and I still came. And you're like, you wanted to get caught because you know you're a piece of shit, and you need to go get help. You
some
need to go
people
get help.
probably don't want to. There's people that don't want. If you know about addiction, that's why like some of these guys with sex addictions, I feel for them because it's really hard to fight that addiction. And it's again, I'm not saying mercy or anything.
Nothing.
But it's just like we're talking about what are some of the characteristics of these people. But like, and again, we've said this at the earliest episodes of this show. Poor pedophiles go to jail. Poor pedophiles go to jail.
Yeah. Rich pedophiles run companies and they're getting into politics. And
There was that one billionaire that
Dominate the
got
world.
caught doing horrible things to his daughter, and the judge was like, "You wouldn't last in prison. We're not going to send you."
what? Who was that? Who was that?
Look it up, dude.
Oh my God.
Okay, so do you think that's why YouTube they let those pedophile videos go so they can justify like they are going to jail? Some of them are going to jail. Like they let those run by.
What
Like,
are you
look,
talking about? The pedophile hunters?
yeah, they let that go by. YouTube lets those run because, like you said, it's justifies them catching pedophiles, even though they're not catching the main big boys like
Yeah,
Epstein
the
and
low
stuff.
levels.
Was
Yeah,
that
it's a
the,
great.
the heir to DuPont? Was
Could that be
who-
the smartest thing he ever said?
Woo!
Was like, why do they let the pedophile hunters at the low levels run their videos, but when we bring up Pizzagate or any of these midnight
Jeffrey Epstein, just say
productions,
that and you're done.
then all of a sudden it's like, no, you're getting strikes left and right. Very interesting point. Xavier Guerrero might have peaked at this
Was
point
it
in
an
the
heir
show.
to the DuPont fortune?
Yeah,
Is that
like
the guy?
one of them. Yeah.
It says Robert Richards IV was in 2009 convicted of raping his 3-year-old daughter 7 years after she, then 5, told relatives that she didn't want my daddy touching me anymore. That's the quote. In an alarming twist, the judge who sentenced the heir to the DuPont fortune let him off with no jail time, arguing that 6'4"
Wow.
Richards would not fare well in prison.
But we don't care that he's not going to fare
Who gives a
well.
shit?
We want, well, actually, we hope he doesn't fare well.
Lucky he's going to prison. He should be dead.
Unreal.
Oh, well, one story that is perfectly in line with what you're saying that I've wanted to talk about for the longest time. This is from my home state, so I'm from South Dakota, and it's something that a lot of people don't know about. So I can't remember how long ago, it was over a decade ago, I believe, but all the hospitals in Sioux Falls and in South Dakota, they used to be Sioux Valley and they used to have different names, but they all switched over to Sanford. And that's because T. Denny Sanford is a billionaire from South Dakota, and he's a philanthropic billionaire, so he's given a ton of money to the healthcare systems. But a few years ago, on T. Denny Sanford, I believe it was his personal email, it was discovered that there were child pornography images. And that was reported upon. There was this whole thing where people were talking about, oh, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? And then the whole thing just disappeared. And it's because this guy's giving billions, and I don't know how
And
much exactly he's
billions.
given, but there's been a push from reporters to get access to the files, and there are files that they won't unseal. But something that just reeks in that whole equation is that the guy who is now the attorney general, I think now he's the attorney general. I don't know what's going on with Kristi Noem becoming Department of Homeland Security and whatnot. But the guy who was T. Denny Sanford's personal attorney, his name is Marty Jackley, and before he was T. Denny's attorney during that period, he was the attorney general of South Dakota. And then after that whole thing happened, he became attorney general again. So it's like, who's going down for those child porn images, and why is there not a bigger push to investigate that? This is a guy who, there are actual statues of him in my hometown with like kids around him holding kids. One of them's he's got a kid on his shoulder, and the dude's linked to an email account. So I think it's his personal email account, where there are child pornography images. And yet it's like really bizarre how there's like a media blackout on the story in South Dakota. I've seen a couple of newspaper articles about it. I think it was Project Veritas or somebody like that who got access to some files and they didn't really make sense, and there was some weird wording in them. But that story itself is just so much darker than what obviously they've led the public to believe at this point. And yeah, I want to cover that in more depth in the future, but it's just wild, man. The more you look into all of this shit, the more you see. Yeah, money can buy you freedom, and if you have enough money and you know the right people, money can buy you a child. It can buy you an hour with the child. It can do anything. It's so as a normal person like you or I, all of us, it's like we can't even conceptualize what that would be like to be able to say, oh, you know what? I'm here at this party and tonight I'd like to have a child, come into the room with me. It's like, how is that even a reality for some people? But it is. Like Epstein, why the fuck have none of the people that actually employed Epstein and Maxwell's services ever been arrested or investigated or prosecuted. Like what they're saying right now is that Ghislaine Maxwell, yeah, was running children, and Jeffrey Epstein was aiding and running all these kids and young girls, but it's like nobody was buying them and no one was abusing the girls. It's so bizarre, like the message that the government sends. Like, why not at least go arrest like two or three people to make it look like you put in some sort of a fucking effort? They just don't, though.
Yeah, I 100% agree with everything you're saying. I think I want to say I forget the name of the government. It's like they're in another intelligence agency. It's not Deagle, but it's like starts with a D, and they run basically like they get equipment for military all over the world, and they've been busted child sex trafficking, and they still get funding, and they still get all that, and it just keeps going because that is a currency. That is a way black ops make money, is through all that stuff. And it's so fucking dark. I mean, when bodies of missing children are found in the Vatican and that story dies because it is a power structure of control.
Well, that's the scary part about all this is like the stories that we hear and the stories that we're able to take in, those are at the end of the day stories that got out. You know, they were the stories that whether somebody decided to let the normal people, the population know about, or, you know, somebody was a whistleblower and alerted people that this was going on. It's just it's unfathomable to think of how many stories exist and have existed that we've never heard about and we will never hear about. Like, for example, Jeffrey Epstein ostensibly killed himself, and that was the end of Epstein, right? But who has taken Epstein's place? Because running a blackmail operation is very, very lucrative and important to a government's power structure. So if Epstein's gone, it's not like the problem's been rooted out and it's dead. It's like somebody has obviously just swept in to take the fucker's place. And in 10 years, we'll probably be hearing about this next guy. That's the issue that I run into all the time in these studies and making these videos is like, how do you actually stop this? Because going back to what you said about pedophiles, it's like the poor pedophiles and normal people who are pedophiles, that problem is never going to be solved. Like the most we can do is raise awareness and try to protect the children and, you know, hope that there will be less crimes, but you're never going to be able to completely wipe out pedophilia because it is a mental thing. But when it comes to these power structures and these powerful organizations that employ pedophiles and like, you know, a blackmail organization, how do you fucking stop that? Like Epstein Justice, I'm going to give a plug to my friend Nick and Alicia, their organization. They're actually lobbying right now, trying to get government officials on board. They want to have a independent, I believe it's a commission, actually investigate Epstein honestly. So I think that could be a great step in the right direction to have transparency from the government. I don't think you're going to get it, but there are people who have voiced that are in the government support for what they're doing. Like I can't remember who it was that has signed on to help them try to push this thing through, but it's just how do you actually stop this shit when people like us, we're not the elites, we're not in the fucking the structure, and we can make videos all day and rant about this shit, but what the fuck can we do? You know, it's not like it bums me out, but it's like, damn, you just feel powerless sometimes.
I think the key to everything is just knowledge is power, and spreading awareness is knowledge, and that's why what you do is so great, and that's why it's so important to keep doing it, to get the word out, because I don't care what anybody says, there are more people attuned to what's going on than ever. And it gets harder and harder for them to pull their occult bullshit on us because they can't use their sorcery because we know their tricks over and over and over again. And eventually people are going to get tired of people like P. Diddy sitting in jail. They're just waiting for the story to die. They're just waiting for it to die and everyone to move on. And people are going to start getting tired of this shit. People are going to be over it, you know? And yeah, do I think Hillary Clinton will ever see a day of where she'll pay a price? Probably not. But maybe. I think the more we wake up to what's going on, the less and less they can get away with so easy. But again, it's really dark. That's why you got to teach your children. You know, when you bring up that thing about making people do stuff on video, now you got to talk to your kids. Listen, there's nothing you could do that daddy won't love you.
Exactly.
It's a minefield for a parent, huh? Dude, I mean,
There's nothing you do that daddy won't love you. No matter what you did stupid, you got to let me know. Because I can't save you if I don't know what you're doing. And anything you've done, probably your father did back in the day. So you hopefully won't be as much as a scumbag as your father. So if you tell me what you did, I can get you out of it.
No, your father definitely did it. There just was no cameras.
Yeah,
no one taped it. No one recorded it. So
just be honest. God, let your kids know. Be honest with me, and we can save you.
Oh, so tough.
No, dude.
Was it Dying Corp? Was that the company?
Dying Corp.
Yeah. I looked it up, dude. You know what's on their wiki page when you get down to human trafficking? It's a picture of 2 U.S. aid workers. At Dying Corp.
God!
It's so funny, dude. Yeah, they were human trafficking, big time.
Colin, man, I've had a great conversation with you. I hope you're okay with some of our jokes we made.
Yeah.
Dude, this has been great, and I just love getting on and being able to talk about this shit because people need to start talking about this shit. And it's weird. It's like when I started transitioning and making videos about this stuff, I had tons of people saying like, "Oh, Colin started drinking the Kool-Aid," and I've had, people make full videos about me and post them saying like, "Oh, Colin's gone completely QAnon insane and he's just a fucking lunatic." And I'm like, if I have to suffer through a little bit of the bullshit first, now I've come out on the other side where people are starting to listen. And if we can just get more people to engage in these conversations, I do have a huge project that's coming. I don't know when it's going to be released or what's going on with it, but it's highly sensitive. And like I said, I can't really talk about it now because we've had some really weird shit happen behind the scenes with like being tracked and just weird, bizarre stuff. But this next year, there's going to be a massive shift in the view of the public towards these issues. And hopefully I can help kind of usher that in with what we've been working on. So it's really exciting, man. And we could talk for fucking hours because we didn't even touch on Frank Sheldon, North Fox Island, and like, it's crazy. It goes on and on, dude.
Well, I just gotta say, buddy, I hope you're safe. I love what you're doing. You have our full support. Our listeners are called to Swarm. They'll all support you because they're very knowledgeable. And whenever you want to come back on, you have an open door to come on and promote your big project because it aligns with what we're talking about. And, it's like, I appreciate what you're doing. It takes a lot. It takes a lot to lay it on the line when you could lose everything. This Palestinian comedian just put out a big thing about being Palestinian right now with all the stuff going on, and that could be very dangerous in entertainment. And the fact they did like that to me is bravery, And you could say whatever you want about my career. I hear all the comments all the time about being a failed this, the failed that. It's like I have a great life. I'm blessed. And I feel like, I get approached all the time by people telling me that this show has changed their lives. And that's what it's all worth, man. That's what it's all worth. So, what you're doing is right. You go through it. We've been called the QAnon people. Q is more right than it was wrong. Operation Trust. They got to tell us what they're doing, I'm just telling you're on the right side of everything. I want you to be safe, your family to be safe. And if you could one more time, tell them where our listeners where they could find you.
Yeah, man. If you want to listen to me rant about pedophile rings and provide a ton of evidence for the existence of these organizations, You can check out the Conspiracy Files on YouTube, or you can listen to it on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. My wife and I co-host the true crime show Murder in America, just dissecting crimes. And my baby, my brainchild, is the Paranormal Files. So paranormal investigating, and I've done it for the last 10 years. And if you believe in ghosts, there's some pretty fucking wild evidence on that channel and just crazy experiences that I've had that we also didn't get to touch on during this. It's crazy. I feel like we haven't been talking that long, but it's been like 2 hours.
Colin, now we were texting back together. Someone suggests you come on the show, and we finally made it happen. Now I remember. Sorry about that, dude. I remember we were texting, and it took us a little while to make this happen, but you blew away my expectations. I'm so thankful you came on the show. I forgot who hooked us up, but I'll go back and look it up and thank them for making this happen. And dude, again, you're doing the Lord's work, man. And you know, sometimes it can get lonely, man. But the other end of that is the understanding that you have morals. And I've been saying this a lot. The new punk rock is common sense. The new punk rock is morals. The new punk rock is common sense over party, over philosophy, over friendship, sadly even sometimes over family, where it's like, you know what common sense is right, and even though they don't see it, you still love them, but you're not going to bend on the fact that you believe in common sense. And you're doing that right now, dude, and you should be applauded for that. And I can't thank you enough. All the links below. You're great, buddy. I was honored, man. I could talk to you forever. We'll have you back as soon as you want to talk about anything you want. Okay.
All right, man. Thank you. Thank you guys for having me.
Excellent
I
conversation.
appreciate what you guys are doing too, man. You got to keep educating people. It's very important.
I love you, buddy. This was great.